He never lets his guard down. Until now. Hours before Money in the Bank 2025, Roman Reigns wasn't blindsided by one man. He was ambushed by two, Randy Orton and Bron Breakker. A living legend and the future of the company, teamed up. Why? Nobody saw it coming. Nobody knows who's really in control. But one thing's clear, this wasn't just an attack. It was a statement. Is this the end of the tribal chief's reign, or just the beginning of something darker? Let's break it down. That's what makes this moment so shocking. Hours before Money in the Bank 2025, arguably WWE's most volatile pay-per-view, Roman Reigns wasn't defeated in the ring. He was hunted down behind it. It happened in the one place he was supposed to be safe, backstage. Not by one man. But two. Two very different men. Two generations of wrestling fury. One, Randy Orton, the apex predator. A legacy name. A multiple-time world champion. A man with a reputation built on betrayals and mind games so brutal they've defined entire eras. The other, Bron Breakker, the future of the company. Powerful. Explosive. Young. Hungry. A legacy kid, sure, but not coasting on it. Earning his name through speed, impact, and violence. You wouldn't put these two in the same room, let alone on the same side. But somehow, someway, they were. And Roman Reigns paid the price. No warnings. No promos. No vignettes. Just two predators in perfect sync. And one king finally caught off guard. A moment so sudden it broke the internet. No entrance music. No countdown. No clever words or symbolic stare-down. Just chaos. The footage was grainy, maybe on purpose. Probably not official. Leaked, maybe. It showed Roman arriving through a private corridor, flanked only by one low-level agent. Then Randy stepped out from the shadows. At first, Roman looked amused. Like he wasn't threatened. Like this was some kind of mind game he was ready for. That's when Bron Breakker bulldozed into frame like a truck with no brakes. A spear that could have cracked ribs. A suplex onto production crates that made steel shake. And then Orton, cold and calm, delivering an RKO onto bare concrete. No commentary. No explanation. And that silence? It was deafening. Even the crowd, packed into the arena just hours from bell time, had no idea. By the time they did, Twitter was melting. WWE went dark. And Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the unstoppable, the head of the table, was nowhere to be seen. Why this moment matters. This wasn't just an ambush. This was a statement. A signature. A warning shot to the entire WWE landscape. Think about it, this is Roman Reigns we're talking about. The man who's outlasted Brock Lesnar, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Edge, Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, over 1,300 days as undisputed champion. He's built a faction so feared, it's literally called the Bloodline. And just like that, it took two men less than 60 seconds to make it all feel like it could crumble. But here's the real question. Why? Why would Randy Orton, after years of clawing his way back from injury and personal redemption, risk everything to pull this off? Why would Bron Breakker, poised to break into the world title scene the clean way, opt for guerrilla warfare instead? Why not just challenge Roman Reigns in the ring like everyone else? Unless, that was never the point. A dangerous alliance or a tactical one-off? Here's what's messing with everyone's heads, this team-up makes no sense on paper. These two have no shared past. No storyline threads. No beef with the Bloodline, at least not on the surface. But dig a little deeper, and cracks start to show. Orton's rivalry with Roman has history. Back in 2014, Roman was the hungry new face taking Orton's spotlight. In 2020, Roman came back stronger than ever, right when Orton was the hottest heel in the company. But they never really had closure. Breakker's been waiting in the shadows. Dominating mid-carders. Destroying tag teams. But every time he gets momentum? Roman headlines. Roman overshadows. Roman gets protected. So maybe this was a move born out of frustration. Maybe this was a message from those WWE isn't booking like gods. Or maybe, just maybe, this was a power play. Not about Roman. But about who controls what comes after him. The timing couldn't be more dangerous. Think about the context. Money in the Bank is hours away. A night built around uncertainty. Opportunism. Sudden power shifts. And now, the company's most dominant force is shaken, maybe injured. Possibly pulled from the main event. Does this open the door for someone to cash in early? Does this force WWE to reshuffle the title picture on live TV? Does Roman come back swinging, or spiraling? There's no clarity. No statement. No calm. Just silence, and speculation. And if you know Randy Orton, you know that's how he likes it. The crowd is divided. The locker room? Even more so. As the footage spread, the reactions exploded. Some called it treason. Others called it justice. WWE superstars started weighing in. Some with sarcasm. Others with outright anger. No one's sure what Orton and Breakker are trying to prove, or whether they've even teamed up at all. Was this a one-time ambush? Was it a handshake deal? Or is there a new faction forming behind the scenes? One the company has no control over? You know WWE doesn't script this kind of chaos. This is real heat. This is real power shifting. And it's happening when no one can afford it. If this is war, who's really winning? Let's stop pretending this was just a beatdown. This was a psychological nuke. Roman Reigns has been untouchable for nearly 4 years. Untouchable in the ring. Untouchable in promos. Untouchable as a brand. He's the one who blindsides. He's the one who manipulates. He's the one who cracks empires with a smirk. But tonight? He got played. No build. No tease. No promos. Just the sharp shock of betrayal from a Viper, and the violent momentum of a breakout star. This wasn't about the title. This was about message. And the message is clear, no one is safe anymore. Not even Roman. What's coming next? That's what this video is here to explore. In the next few chapters, we're diving deep into the motivations behind this shocking ambush, the deeper connections between Orton, Breakker, and Roman, how MITB 2025 changes everything, what this means for the bloodline, the title picture, and WWE's future. Strap in. Because if you thought the tribal chief was untouchable, you haven't seen what happens when the future and the past decide to burn down the present. The clock was ticking. Hours before the first bell of Money in the Bank 2025, the arena lights were still dim. Staff moved with urgency but not panic. Fans had begun pouring into the city, lining up outside merchandise tents and buzzing about potential cash-ins, swerves, and dream matches. It was supposed to be another landmark night in WWE's calendar. Instead, it turned into a strategic war zone, because everything changed the moment Roman Reigns hit the floor backstage. To understand the weight of that ambush, you have to understand what was riding on this event. MITB 2025 wasn't just a big show. It was a battlefield built for shifting power. And this year, the chessboard was loaded with kings, pawns, and wildcards, all aiming for control of WWE's future. This section unpacks that battlefield. Money in the Bank is a concept rooted in unpredictability. The match itself revolves around a briefcase hanging above the ring, and the wrestler who grabs it gets a contract. Not just any contract, one that lets them challenge for the world title at any time they choose within a year. It's created legends. Edge, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Carmella, Bayley, they all stamped their legacies using that briefcase. MITB has become a trigger for history. One swing of the case and everything changes. This year was shaping up to be even more dangerous. The card was stacked with high-risk names and volatile energy. Everyone was watching the briefcase. No one expected the explosion to come from backstage. But when Orton and Breakker struck, everything on the card got thrown into question. Reigns wasn't just defending his undisputed Universal Championship. He was defending an aura. His legacy as a champion wasn't based on fluke wins or technical outclassing. It was built on intimidation, strategy, and dominance. Every time a challenger stepped up, they either bent the knee or got folded. MITB 2025 was supposed to be the continuation of that dominance, a defense, another checkmark, and then maybe a promo about how there was no one left. But as of the attack, the card was in chaos. The Money in the Bank ladder match had 8 confirmed participants. Every single one of them had a reason to target Reigns, Cody Rhodes, back after another year of chasing the story he never finished. Gunther, the ring general with the longest intercontinental reign behind him and nothing left to prove there. LA Knight, the fan favorite who's been knocking at the door for a year straight. Damian Priest, desperate to get out from under Judgment Day's shadow and stand on his own. And that's just half the field. Any one of them could win the briefcase. Any one of them could cash in that night. Roman knew that. That's why he was in the building early. That's why he showed up sharp. Focused. Ready. Or so he thought. The ambush came just after his arrival. No press. No hype. Just a calculated takedown meant to do one thing, take him out before the bell even rang. And now, the briefcase is more dangerous than ever. Because if Roman is injured or unstable, the value of that contract triples. He becomes an easy target, exactly what the MITB concept was designed for. Think of it like this. If you're Cody Rhodes, this is the opening you prayed for. You've lost on the biggest stages. You've been denied clean finishes and golden moments. Now the strongest man in the company might be walking into the main event at less than 100%. Do you let that slide? If you're LA Knight, this is your time to talk the talk and finally walk over someone broken enough for the win. The fans are behind you. The crowd wants it. Now the universe might have handed it to you on a silver platter. But it's not just about the cash-in. The rest of the MITB card was already unstable. Seth Rollins vs. Drew McIntyre was a blood feud waiting to explode. The women's ladder match featured rising star Tiffany Stratton, former champion Becky Lynch, and returning powerhouse Raquel Rodriguez, all vying for a shot that could change their lives. Tag titles were on the line in a fatal four-way featuring the Judgment Day, the Street Profits, Imperium, and the LWO. Any one of those teams could emerge from the chaos ready to disrupt whatever new regime emerged post-MITB. MITB isn't WrestleMania. It's not about cementing status. It's about survival and seizing opportunity. And now, there's a power vacuum in the biggest spot of the night. What happens if Roman can't compete? Does WWE pull the main event? Do they throw in a mystery opponent? Does the MITB winner cash in mid-show instead of after? The options are endless, and none of them offer comfort for WWE management. Roman Reigns is the face of the company. Losing him even for one night throws off the axis of the product. And when that kind of disruption hits, everyone starts making moves. But the biggest question isn't whether Roman competes. It's whether he should. Because if you're Reigns, and you've just been blindsided by two of the most dangerous men in the business, how do you walk back into the ring with the same confidence? Do you trust your body? Do you trust your team? Do you trust the arena around you? Or do you start to suspect that this isn't just a match you're walking into, it's a trap? There's another angle to this. If Randy Orton and Bron Breakker truly coordinated this attack, then who's to say they're finished? What if they're not after Roman's title, but his legacy? If the briefcase changes hands, if Roman loses clean, the narrative becomes, he was finally out-wrestled. But if Roman loses after an attack, if he's crushed under the weight of betrayal and uncertainty, the message becomes clearer: he was dethroned, not defeated. MITB 2025, by design, is a night built around chaos. But the Roman ambush took it to another level. The tone shifted. The stakes sharpened. Every match on the card now feels heavier, darker, more dangerous. Because somewhere backstage, there's still no official update. Roman hasn't posted. Paul Heyman hasn't spoken. Security has been doubled. Cameras have been redirected. And in the absence of facts, the most dangerous thing is filling in the blanks. Is Roman injured? Or is he lying in wait? Are Orton and Breakker a one-time strike team? Or is there a movement happening that no one's ready for? The bell hasn't even rung, and already the battlefield is bloodied. What happens next could redefine everything. Randy Orton doesn't need the spotlight. He's been under it for 20 years. He doesn't chase trends. He sets them. He's not the loudest, the flashiest, or the most marketable. But when he strikes, it matters. And when he disappears? People feel the absence. So, when Orton returned, and not in an advertised, pyroblasted entrance but in the shadows of a backstage ambush, it wasn't just a return. It was a reminder. This is still his world. And he hasn't forgotten anything. To understand why Randy Orton joined forces with Bron Breakker to assault Roman Reigns, you need to rewind. Not days. Not weeks. Years. Because Orton's beef with Roman Reigns isn't about one match. It's about a pattern. A cycle of dominance that Roman's been allowed to ride unchecked, while guys like Randy get framed as the past. Let's break that myth. Orton's journey to this moment is a winding road of triumph, exile, betrayal, and return. And maybe, just maybe, this attack wasn't a snap decision, but a long-brewing act of personal vengeance. Let's start at the last major chapter before the ambush, Orton's injury. May 2022. Randy Orton's back was failing. Years of RKO landings, bumps, and constant punishment had caught up. He was written off TV after a vicious attack by the Usos, bloodline business. What wasn't on camera? The pain. The doubt. The quiet whispers backstage that maybe the apex predator was done for good. Some said he'd never wrestle again. Fusion surgery doesn't just heal a man, it reshapes him. The fact that Orton even returned to the gym was a shock. The fact that he began training again was a miracle. And when he came back in late 2024, he wasn't smiling. He wasn't nostalgic. He was sharper. Meaner. A little quieter. But a whole lot more focused. There was no legend tour. No farewell lap. Just a warning, Randy Orton wasn't here to be respected. He was here to end illusions. And Roman Reigns? Was the biggest illusion of all. Because in Orton's eyes, Roman didn't build a legacy. He inherited it. He was given Paul Heyman. Gifted the Usos. Protected by the bloodline. Surrounded by a narrative machine that polished him into the tribal chief. To Randy, Roman's dominance wasn't earned the hard way, it was engineered. Compare that to Orton's path. The son of a wrestling legend, yes. But one who clawed through his own mistakes. Suspensions. Backstage heat. Injuries. Comebacks. Multiple eras. Randy wasn't handed an empire. He survived his way to one. Which brings us to 2025. Roman Reigns is at the top. The company is centered on him. And the loudest whispers in the locker room are all the same: who's finally going to take him down? Some say Cody Rhodes. Some say Gunther. No one said Randy Orton. Maybe that's why he did it. Maybe this wasn't just an ambush, it was a reclamation. Randy wasn't going to ask for a match. He wasn't going to cut a promo. He wasn't going to stand on stage and declare war. Because he's done with that chapter. He's not looking for approval. He's looking for closure. This wasn't about titles. It was about position. Randy Orton has always believed that respect is earned in silence, through action, not words. So what does a silent ambush backstage say louder than any promo? It says, "I didn't come back to wait my turn. I came to burn the throne to ash." Of course, the most controversial element of the attack wasn't just Randy's participation. It was who he teamed with. Bron Breakker. At first glance, this pairing seems impossible. Orton, the slow burn assassin. Bron, the firecracker cannonball. Different eras. Different styles. Different philosophies. But think about it strategically. Randy's smart. Always has been. He doesn't fight fair. He fights effectively. And when you're looking to send a message that no one's safe, not even Roman, you don't go alone. You bring a weapon. You bring an enforcer who hits like a freight train. That's what Bron is. So, did Orton manipulate Breakker into helping him? Or is there something deeper going on? There's been no on-air alliance. No acknowledgement. Orton hasn't cut a promo since the ambush. He's gone dark. No interviews. No tweets. No backstage segments. Classic apex predator. Which brings us to the psychology. Randy Orton doesn't need to explain. He wants you to wonder. That's his strength. Ambiguity. Manipulation. Control through confusion. He has no interest in forming a faction. No desire to sell t-shirts or cut catchphrases. He's not Roman. He doesn't want to rule the table. He wants to flip it. What if this was never about the Universal title? What if it's about legacy? Imagine being Randy Orton. You've held 14 world titles. You've main event WrestleMania. You've outlasted every major star from the Attitude and Ruthless Aggression eras. You've carried the company during the PG era. And now? You're reduced to return pop status. Fans cheer. They're glad to see you. But the machine has already moved on. They're chanting for LA Knight. For Cody. For Gunther. For Roman. And you're standing in Gorilla, wondering when it became okay for them to forget. Randy didn't attack Roman because he's desperate. He attacked Roman because he's done waiting for the narrative to shift in his favor. He's rewriting it. The truth is, Orton doesn't want to be the past. He wants to remind everyone that he can still dictate the future. And if that means dismantling the golden goose of WWE with no ceremony? So be it. He's not here to be remembered. He's here to be feared again. Roman Reigns wasn't just a target. He was a symbol. And symbols are meant to be shattered. He didn't speak much. He didn't need to. Because every time Bron Breakker hit the ring, the message was the same: move or be moved. There are rising stars, and then there's Bron Breakker. A product of legacy and aggression. A man born into wrestling but raised like a war dog. And on the night of Money in the Bank 2025, that aggression found its purpose. But this wasn't just another dominant performance. This was tactical. Controlled. Personal. Bron didn't storm the ring with a mic and a chip on his shoulder. He ambushed the most powerful man in WWE beside Randy Orton, and left him laid out. So how did we get here? How did a young prospect go from hype to headhunter? From NXT champion to co-conspirator in the most shocking ambush of the year? Let's trace the path. Because Bron Breakker isn't just the future of WWE. He might be its most dangerous present. Start with the basics. Real name, Bronson Rechsteiner. That last name sound familiar? It should. Son of Rick Steiner. Nephew of Scott Steiner. Hall of Fame blood in his veins. But Bron didn't coast on that. He never pulled a Charlotte Flair and leaned into the family name. He forged his own. And how? By wrecking people. Fast. Clean. Hard. From the moment he debuted in NXT in 2021, Bron was different. A wrecking ball in boots. His style was a collision between explosiveness and control. Suplexes like artillery shells. Spears like battering rams. And he wasn't just powerful, he was efficient. No wasted movement. No flair. Just violence delivered with surgical precision. He won the NXT Championship within 4 months of debuting. He carried the brand on his back during the transitional period. The black and gold purists didn't like it. They said he was green. Raw. Overpushed. But no one could argue with the results. He crushed legends. Humiliated veterans. Sent more than a few packing. And then he vanished, for a moment. Because NXT wasn't enough. He had more to prove. Bigger mountains to climb. When he came to the main roster in 2024, the expectations were sky high. But the booking was careful. WWE didn't throw him into the title picture. They let him simmer. Slowly. Strategically. Matches against Sheamus. Lashley. Gable. Wins, mostly. But not squashes. Bron wasn't being fed enhancement talent. He was earning credibility by outlasting, outmuscling, and outperforming elite names. And then he plateaued. Why? Because Roman Reigns stood at the top. Because there was no room at the table. Because the bloodline narrative still controlled the oxygen in WWE's main event scene. And Bron, for all his fury, wasn't a story yet. He was a threat, but threats don't draw unless they have context. So maybe that's what changed. Maybe Bron got tired of waiting for his shot. Tired of earning every scrap while the same names headlined every pay-per-view. Think about it. You're Bron Breakker. You've broken backs and cracked skulls. You've filled arenas with chants. You've made analysts salivate over your upside. And yet, the title picture is frozen. Roman's still king. Cody's still the runner-up. Gunther's still the slow burn build. And you? You're still being told not yet. So, what do? You stop waiting. You cut through the line. You find the one moment where no one's watching, when Roman is vulnerable, and you take it. The brilliance of Bron's ambush wasn't just that he hit Roman hard. It's that he did it with zero ego. He didn't need credit. He didn't need the cameras to catch him smiling. He didn't pose. He hit. He left. He made his point. And the point was this: Bron Breakker isn't waiting for permission anymore. Here's another wrinkle. Teaming with Randy Orton wasn't a logical move. It was a calculated one. Because if there's one thing Randy represents, it's autonomy. Control. Legacy through manipulation. Bron's always been power. But power without direction is just noise. So, what if Orton gave him direction? What if this wasn't a partnership, but a transaction? Bron gets the exposure. The credibility. The push into a main event narrative. And Orton gets the muscle he needs to shatter the tribal chief's shield. It's not friendship. It's strategy. Bron doesn't need alliances. He needs leverage. He's not here to join the Bloodline, or the Judgment Day, or any other faction. He doesn't need help. He needs opportunity. And in attacking Roman, he took it. He inserted himself into the biggest story of the year, without speaking a word. That's a rare kind of presence. It's also terrifying. Because Bron Breakker doesn't work on the same clock as the rest of the roster. He's not chasing titles. He's chasing legacy. And unlike most rookies, he's not concerned with what the fans think. He's not trying to be the next Cena or the next Roman. He's trying to be the first Bron. And that means rewriting the rules. Here's the scariest part. Bron is just getting started. He's not even in his prime. He's still learning. still leveling up. And already, he has the company on edge. No one saw this ambush coming. Because no one expected Bron to strike before being given a reason. But maybe that's the lesson. Maybe Bron Breakker doesn't need reasons. He only needs moments. And when he finds one, he doesn't knock. He breaks through. Roman Reigns found that out the hard way. Hours before the chaos. That's where the real story starts. Before Bron Breakker sent Roman Reigns into a wall. Before Randy Orton slithered out of the shadows and dropped the RKO on concrete. Before the MITB card was shattered from within, there was quiet. Not peaceful. Tense. Like the air before a storm. Backstage at any WWE Premium Live event, there's a rhythm. A ritual. Production teams run final checks. Wrestlers warm up in layers of silence and muscle memory. Agents whisper changes, security stays sharp, and everyone is watching Roman Reigns. Not because they like him. But because they have to. Roman Reigns isn't just a performer. He's a presence. When he walks through gorilla position, people notice. Crew members stand up straighter. Mid-carders drop eye contact. Even other main eventers look his way, not out of awe, but calculation. Because everything bends around Roman. And on the night of Money in the Bank 2025, the bending snapped. The first signs were subtle. A heavier security presence near Roman's private dressing room. Not unusual, but it wasn't MITB protocol either. Word was, Roman had asked for additional clearances. Only essential personnel near his area. No production traffic. No press walkthroughs. Even Paul Heyman was seen pacing earlier than normal. Something felt off. But no one said it out loud. That's WWE backstage culture. You don't speculate unless you want heat. You nod. You move. You handle your business. If someone's getting political, you let it play out. That's how veterans survive and rookies get buried. And Reigns? He plays that game better than anyone. He doesn't yell. He delegates. He doesn't demand. He expects. And when he enters an arena, everything stops for a moment, just long enough for people to remember who runs the show. But this night had a different hum. The production crew was rushed. Timings were off. A scheduled pre-show segment was cancelled last minute. Camera setups were adjusted. No explanation. It was around 5:50 p.m. when Roman arrived. Earlier than expected. No Paul Heyman. No Solo Sikoa. Just one security detail and a backstage liaison. That wasn't like him. Roman doesn't just show up. He arrives, with purpose, with presence, with control. But not this time. Some crew members later said they noticed it in his posture. Others saw it in his eyes. There was a flicker of tension. Maybe fatigue. Maybe something else. Some speculated Roman had received a warning. An anonymous text. A message passed through channels. Nothing direct. Just enough to rattle him. But this is the part that twists the knife, he ignored it. Roman Reigns, the man who built his legacy on paranoia and dominance, decided this wasn't worth his full attention. And that's why he got blindsided. Let's rewind even further, to the hours leading up to that moment. Bron Breakker wasn't listed on the early talent schedule. He wasn't officially booked for MITB 2025. He'd wrestled on SmackDown the night before and was expected to be off the show entirely. Yet he was seen in the building just after 3 p.m. Dressed in street clothes. No handler. No escort. Just a duffel bag and a stare that made people move. No one asked why he was there. And that's part of the problem. When a guy like Bron Breakker walks through backstage corridors, you don't assume anything. You let him pass. You mind your business. Because if you ask questions and it turns out it was a surprise appearance, you've just spoiled creative. But now we know, this wasn't creative. This was coordinated. Breakker was positioned. Waiting. Not near Gorilla. Not by catering. In a lesser-used hallway near production. Off camera. Out of frame. But close enough to strike. And Randy Orton? Even more invisible. He didn't fly in with the main roster. He used a private entrance, reportedly checked in under an alias, and avoided talent parking entirely. A ghost. If Bron was the hammer, Orton was the string puller. He knew every hallway. Every blind corner. Every second the cameras weren't rolling. You don't spend 20 years in this business without learning how to disappear when it counts. So, what does this tell us? It tells us the attack wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't anger. It was architecture. This wasn't about ego or heat. This was about timing. The MITB 2025 main event was being finalized. Referees briefed. Gear checked. Production rehearsals running behind. The kind of moment when everyone's half-focused, too busy prepping to see what's coming. That's when Randy stepped into Roman's path. Not aggressive. Not loud. Just present. Enough to make Roman stop. Enough to buy Bron Breakker 5 seconds of momentum. The rest? You've seen the footage. A spear so violent Roman folded into steel crates. A flurry of fists. A knee to the spine. And then the kill shot, RKO to concrete. All within 60 seconds. Security didn't have time to react. By the time someone yelled medical, Orton and Breakker were gone. Not caught. Not questioned. Just gone. Vanished into the same backstage system that Roman used to control. And that's what makes this more than an attack. This was a takeover. Because the real power in WWE isn't just held by champions. It's held by those who know when and where to strike. And on this night, the apex predator and the monster chose perfectly. No lights. No cameras. Just damage. There's a kind of silence that doesn't feel empty, it feels loaded. Ready to detonate. That was the air backstage just after 5:50 p.m. at Money in the Bank 2025. Roman Reigns had just entered the building. Alone. No Paul Heyman. No Solo. No Bloodline. Just one staff liaison and a personal security escort, both staying half a step behind. The footage that leaked, grainy, handheld, off-angle, didn't come from WWE's official production team. It looked like a phone grab. Someone in the right place, at the wrong time. And it might be the most devastating 60 seconds Roman Reigns has endured since returning in 2020. Let's break it down. Moment by moment. Roman enters from the back loading dock. There's a black SUV, window tinted. He steps out calm, focused. A duffel bag in his left hand. Wearing the same black track jacket we've seen him in for years. Tribal Chief script on the chest. He nods to security. Exchanges a few quiet words with the staffer. Keeps walking. Camera pans slowly as he moves through a dim hallway, one used mostly for talent shortcuts between production and Gorilla. The kind of hallway where there are no fans. No media. No pyros. Just pipes, lights, and concrete walls. Roman turns a corner, and stops. Randy Orton is standing there. No music. No words. No tension theatrics. Just standing. Roman pauses. Not startled. Not afraid. Just, sizing him up. The two stare for maybe 3 seconds. A lifetime in wrestling. There's history in that silence. Years of near misses. Backstage heat. Title overlap. Roman once replaced Orton as the next face. Orton once questioned Roman's rise in interviews. That tension never exploded until now. Roman finally speaks. We don't hear it clearly on the tape. Just a low murmur. Possibly you lost, or you need something? Orton tilts his head slightly, half a smirk forming. Classic Apex body language. That's when it happens. From the left of the screen, like a missile, Bron Breakker hits Roman Reigns like a freight train. No warning. No scream. No battle cry. Just full momentum. The spear isn't clean. It's violent. Unrefined. Not for show. Roman's body folds. His bag flies. Security stumbles. Bron doesn't stop. He's on top of Roman, raining fists like he's breaking down a slab of concrete. Forearms. Elbows. A stomp to the ribs. Roman tries to roll out, but Bron grabs his leg and drags him back toward the metal production crate stacked near the wall. Boom. Suplex. The sound echoes. Flesh and bone against steel. And Orton? He hasn't moved. Just watching. Eyes sharp. Calculating. Cold. Finally, Roman tries to get up, barely. One hand on the crate, trying to rise. His eyes are glazed, jaw clenched. But he's fighting. That's when Randy steps forward. One motion. RKO. Onto the concrete. No padding. No crash mat. Just concrete. Roman's head snaps back. His body drops like it's been cut loose from a wire. The camera shakes. A gasp off screen. Someone yelling for help. Bron stands over the wreckage, breathing heavy. Not yelling. Not showboating. Just standing there like a predator watching prey twitch for the last time. Randy takes one look down, leans in slightly, maybe says something, maybe not. Then he turns. Walks away. Bron follows. Slow. Controlled. No urgency. Seconds later, WWE staff come running. Medics. Security. Someone calls for backup. Roman isn't moving at first. Then slowly, barely, his shoulders shift. He groans. Medical staff are already calling for a stretcher. And that's the end of the tape. 60 seconds. That's all it took. The tribal chief. The longest reigning champion of the modern era. The man whose bulldozed legends stood atop every pay-per-view since 2020, and rebuilt himself into a walking monument, taken out in under a minute. No promos. No match. Just two men, one hallway, and a plan that hit harder than any finisher on the main card. Now let's talk implications. This wasn't a storyline ambush with backstage agents rushing in after the first bump. There was no worked feel to it. No quick fade to black. This was chaos, raw and uncontrolled. Security didn't react in time. Staff was unprepared. The talent locker room? Caught off guard. The footage wasn't supposed to air. WWE has not confirmed its origin. But within 15 minutes, it was everywhere. Leaked. Clipped. Trending. Hashtag Roman ambushed, hashtag Breakker Orton, hashtag MITB shocker. The silence from WWE was just as loud. No official comment. No graphic. No update. And that silence did something dangerous. It created panic. Was Roman injured for real? Would he defend his title? Was the MITB main event cancelled? More importantly, why did Orton and Breakker do this? Was this an alliance? Or a one-night contract? Was someone pulling strings backstage? No answers. Only a wrecked tribal chief and a cloud of fear hanging over the show. And it didn't take long before the questions turned to anger. Because in WWE, there's an unspoken rule. You can attack a man in the ring. On the ramp. Even in guerrilla. But backstage? Before the card even starts? That's war. And Randy Orton knows exactly how war works. So does Bron Breakker. And Roman Reigns? He just learned. The footage hit social media before Roman Reigns hit the ground. It spread like fire. Clipped. Reposted. Screen recorded. Everyone had a different version, different angle, different reaction. But the moment was the same, the tribal chief down, eyes unfocused, body broken. For the next 30 minutes, WWE corporate was in lockdown mode. No press releases. No talent tweets. No commentary. Just static. This wasn't an injury angle gone too far. This was something WWE didn't see coming, and didn't know how to contain. It wasn't just shocking. It was destabilizing. The show hadn't even started yet. The Money in the Bank pre-show was 20 minutes from going live when producers reportedly pulled 4 segments from the run sheet. Cue cards were shredded. Announcers received live instructions, do not acknowledge Reigns unless cleared. Even Michael Cole, who's seen everything, looked like he didn't know whether to read off the monitor or just buy time. For a company that lives on control, the silence was deafening. The only official activity came backstage. First, Roman was transported out of the arena via stretcher. That much was confirmed. He was reportedly responsive, barely. Trainers applied a neck brace. Paramedics took every precaution. His eyes were open, but unfocused. Second, Paul Heyman was nowhere to be seen. That created more panic. Heyman is always by Roman's side, in every moment, matches, promos, even walk-ins. But this time? Not even a sighting. Some talent thought he hadn't arrived yet. Others suspected he had, but was hiding out. Rumors flew. No confirmations. Third, WWE officials began pulling talent into private meetings. Not for creative adjustments. For crisis management. Because this wasn't just a storyline breaking point. This was a structural breach. Roman Reigns wasn't just attacked, he was diminished. And that meant WWE's entire main event picture was now in freefall. Backstage morale shifted fast. Some veterans were furious. One top-tier star was reportedly pacing, muttering, "This wasn't the plan. This wasn't the freaking plan." Another called the incident a shoot inside a work, adding, "If this is an angle, it's genius. If it's not, somebody's getting fired." But no one had answers. Which made it worse. In an industry built on story, uncertainty is lethal. A few mid-carders tried to get clarity from their producers. Were matches being reordered? Would Roman still defend? Were they even supposed to react publicly? No one had answers. And the people who usually did, Triple H, Nick Khan, Bruce Pritchard, weren't visible. At 6:30 p.m., the MITB production meeting reportedly ended 20 minutes early. Another bad sign. Then there was the locker room. Wrestlers handle backstage chaos in different ways. Some sat silently in gear, watching the footage on their phones like it was news from a war zone. Others debated whether Orton and Breakker were really aligned, or if this was an orchestrated power grab. But one question kept bouncing through the halls. Where the hell is Roman now? No footage of him leaving. No statement from Heyman. No update from the hospital. Even Solo Sikoa, his bloodline enforcer, was silent. And that's when people really started to panic. Because if there's one thing the bloodline era taught everyone, it's this: Roman Reigns doesn't get caught slipping. He doesn't get jumped. And he never goes down quietly. But now? No voice. No vengeance. Just absence. And that silence created a power vacuum. A dangerous one. Talent started pitching changes. LA Knight reportedly asked if he could cut a live promo addressing the incident. Denied. Cody Rhodes offered to bump his match to the main event slot if needed. Denied. Gunther kept to himself, focused. Seth Rollins? Reportedly livid, he wasn't told anything beyond hold position. The commentators were caught in the middle. At show open, Michael Cole and Corey Graves addressed the crowd in vague terms. "We've had some shocking developments backstage," Cole said, "but tonight's action continues as scheduled." That was it. No names. No explanation. Just more silence. That alone sent the audience into a frenzy. The live crowd was restless. Every match came with chants. "We want Roman." "Where's Heyman?" And, surprisingly, Breakker's house. The WWE Universe wasn't just watching, they were reacting. And in real time, they were reshaping the story. That's the irony of control in wrestling. You can script everything. But when the unscripted hits, that's when the product becomes real. Because now? Every single superstar had to adjust. The MITB briefcase became hotter than ever. Whoever held it could potentially cash in on a weekend, or absent, champion. The bloodline, silent. Orton and Breakker, vanished. The locker room? Divided. And Roman? No statement. No tweet. Not even a hospital update. Just a ghost hanging over the pay-per-view like a thundercloud. That silence wasn't just a delay in communication. It was a signal. Something bigger is coming. And no one, not even WWE, knows what form it will take. WWE fans are loud. Passionate. Opinionated. But more than anything, they're fast. Within minutes of Roman Reigns hitting the ground backstage, the internet wasn't just reacting. It was erupting. The first clip of the ambush was uploaded to X, formerly Twitter, at 6:12 p.m. Eastern. Within 20 minutes, it had over 3 million views, 250,000 likes, and 90,000 retweets. By the time the first match of Money in the Bank officially kicked off, the phrase Randy and Bron was trending at #1 in the US. Social media had gone nuclear. And the reactions? Divided. Volatile. Unfiltered. Finally. Roman gets what he deserves. Orton is him. #MITB why Bron though? What's he gained from this? And why now? If this is a work, it's brilliant. If it's not? It's even better. Y'all love Roman until he's down. This fanbase is weird. Fans weren't just watching, they were participating in the chaos. Building theories. Rewriting the narrative in real time. Some treated it like a cinematic masterpiece. Others saw it as a betrayal. A few thought it was real. And were genuinely concerned for Roman's safety. This wasn't just engagement. It was ownership. For years, Roman Reigns had been a lightning rod in WWE discourse. Love him or hate him, you had an opinion. His dominance. His promos. The bloodline. The title reign. His matches. Everything he touched sparked conversation. But now? Roman wasn't speaking. And that vacuum gave the audience power. On Reddit, wrestling forums blew up with speculation. Threads titled "Is this how Roman finally drops the belt?" and "Orton plus Breakker equals new bloodline," gained thousands of comments per hour. Some users posted insider info they claimed to have. Others mocked those users instantly. It was chaos, but the kind that builds momentum. YouTube was flooded with reaction videos. Creators dissecting the grainy clip frame by frame like Zapruder footage. Commentary channels posting hour-long live streams just to talk through what it meant. Some focused on the psychology. Did you see how calm Randy looked the entire time? That wasn't rage. That was calculated. Others analyzed Bron's silence, no yelling. No posing. That's what scared me. He just did it. That's a killer move. Even those who usually criticize WWE were glued in. Prominent wrestling podcasters, some openly AEW aligned, suddenly praised the move. "I'll give it to them, this is the most compelling thing WWE has done in a year. Easy." But while the fan reactions varied wildly, there were three main camps. This group saw the ambush as karma. They pointed to years of Roman's bloodline interference, his manipulation of match rules, and the endless list of challengers he had ducked, crushed, or psychologically dismantled. Roman been running WWE like a mob boss. Orton and Bron just pulled a coup. They cheered. They memed. They flooded social media with videos of Orton RKOing past legends, now edited to include Bron Breakker as a new generation hitman. For them, this was justice. Not just against Roman, but against creative protection. Against the idea that no one could break the tribal chief. Until now. These fans didn't see a random ambush. They saw architecture. They theorized that Heyman was behind it. That Bron and Orton were paid off. That MITB would end with a shocking double betrayal and a new faction. Maybe even a return from The Rock. One viral theory, this was all Heyman's plan to test Roman. He set this up. He wasn't absent. He was watching. Another, Orton and Bron are building something new. Post-bloodline. A faction of wolves, not sheep. A surprising number of fans linked it back to Cody Rhodes. Notice who didn't get touched. Cody. What if this was a plan to finally clear the way for him to finish the story? Whether rooted in logic or just fantasy booking gone wild, these theories gave the audience a new kind of power. Because WWE wasn't offering answers. So, the fans filled in the blanks themselves. Then there were Roman loyalists. They didn't just see a champion attacked. They saw a dynasty threatened. This camp flooded comment sections with #ProtectRoman and #TribalChiefForever. They demanded updates. Called for justice. Begged WWE to suspend Orton and Breakker. Some went so far as to call it character assassination. For them, this wasn't thrilling. It was wrong. The sentiment was simple. You don't do this to the man who carried the company through the worst years. Not like this. Not without a fight. It's worth noting, this was the smallest of the three camps, but also the most loyal. These were the fans who had watched Roman evolve from rejected face to revered heel. They had stood by him through the boos, the promos, the title unifications. And they weren't just angry. They were scared. Because deep down, they sensed something most fans hadn't admitted yet, this might be the beginning of the end. The fall doesn't always come from a match. Sometimes it starts with a moment. And this one just rewrote the temperature of the entire fanbase. By the end of the night, Roman's name had trended in over 20 countries. WWE's engagement numbers reportedly doubled their WrestleMania traffic. Fan-made graphics started circulating showing Reigns vs. Breakker with fantasy match cards. But what mattered most? The story was no longer WWE's alone. The fans had grabbed it. Twisted it. Flipped it. Repackaged it. And now, they wanted answers. Or they'd keep writing their own. For over 4 years, Roman Reigns wasn't just the face of WWE, he was the foundation. The axis everything else spun around. Merchandise, main events, narratives, championships, corporate marketing, locker room structure, all of it was tied, directly or indirectly, to Roman Reigns. So, when he got blindsided backstage, it didn't just shake a storyline. It shook the system. This isn't just about an attack. It's about who got attacked. Roman Reigns hasn't been pinned in over 3 years. He's held the Universal Championship since 2020. He unified it with the WWE title in 2022. He walked into and out of multiple WrestleManias as the champion. He steamrolled every division. He swallowed every challenger whole. He didn't just win, he dominated. He was never just the tribal chief. He was the constant. So, to see him lying on the floor, jaw slack, motionless under a pile of metal crates and concrete, was like watching Mount Everest get bulldozed. It broke something in the audience. In the locker room. In the company. Because Roman Reigns wasn't supposed to lose like that. His defeats, if they were to happen, were meant to be cinematic. Epic. Blood, sweat and tears level struggles on the biggest stages, with career-defining payoff. Not 60 seconds of brutality in a hallway with no referee and no camera crew. But that's exactly why this moment matters more than any championship defense he's had. Let's break down why. Roman's greatest strength hasn't been his physicality, it's been his aura. The stoic face. The methodical pacing. The slow, deliberate promos. The unmatched ability to control the room just by showing up. He created an empire on presence. On being the alpha, the one who can't be surprised, manipulated, or outmaneuvered. That was shattered in one ambush. Bron Breakker and Randy Orton didn't just attack his body. They attacked his myth. And that's what made it hurt. You can recover from bruised ribs. It's a lot harder to recover from a cracked legacy. Second. The chain of victims. Let's not forget who Roman has buried to maintain his throne. Edge, speared off the world title radar. Daniel Bryan, banished entirely. Sami Zayn, turned into a tragic hero. Cody Rhodes, left holding his own broken dream at WrestleMania. Kevin Owens, used as a prop in the Bloodline's brutality. Drew McIntyre, outclassed in his own backyard. Seth Rollins, the one man Roman couldn't truly shake, still couldn't beat him clean. Roman didn't just beat these men. He altered their arcs. Their narratives changed because they couldn't beat him. That's the effect of a reign this long. It distorts everything else around it. Even when Roman wasn't in the ring, he cast a shadow over every contender's ceiling. Every storyline, even indirectly, led back to him. Now? That shadow is flickering. Because if Roman can be taken out this easily, the illusion of invincibility is gone. And once an empire loses fear, it starts to fall. The bloodline isn't at full strength anymore. For years, Roman didn't stand alone. He stood with Solo Sikoa, with the Usos, and most importantly, with Paul Heyman. Together, they were a machine. Even when internal conflicts arose, like when Jey Uso broke ranks or Jimmy rebelled, it was always Roman who recalibrated the power balance. But in recent months, the bloodline hasn't looked like an empire. It's looked like a monarchy with no heirs. That means Roman was vulnerable. And maybe he didn't realize just how vulnerable. If the bloodline was once a shield, it's now more of a memory. And without it, Roman's throne is exposed. Fourth, the timing. This didn't happen at a random SmackDown. It happened hours before Money in the Bank, a show built around opportunism. Where one man, or woman, walks out with a contract to cash in on a weakened champion. Timing isn't accidental. Breakker and Orton knew exactly what MITB represents. It's not about belts. It's about leverage. And Roman was the highest leverage target in the business. They didn't just strike hard, they struck smart. Now the locker room is watching. Rivals are recalculating. Champions are nervous. Even commentators are treading carefully. Because the rules have changed. Before, Roman was the endgame. Now? He's the opportunity. Fifth, the psychological fallout. Roman Reigns has built his identity on dominance. What happens when that identity gets shaken? Does he come back angrier? More ruthless? Or does he lose that cold precision that made him special? For years, Roman walked through arenas like a war general. Calculated. Disciplined. Always 2 moves ahead. But if you watched the ambush tape carefully, there was something Roman did that was rare. He hesitated. When he turned that corner and saw Randy Orton, he paused. He didn't fight. He didn't bark. He read the room. And in that fraction of a second, he got played. That hesitation might seem small, but it reveals something deep. Doubt. And doubt spreads. Will fans still believe in the tribal chief? Will challengers still fear him? Will Roman himself still see the ring the same way? That's why this moment is bigger than an injury. This is the start of a psychological unraveling. And once that starts, even kings can fall.